Hi, everybody. We're just waiting for everybody to be let in from the waiting room, and then we will get started. Okay, and it looks like the counter has stopped for the moment, so that should be everybody who was in the waiting room is now in the session. Welcome all. My name is Billy, and I am the founder and organizer of Bookstore Romance Day, and I just wanted to take this moment to some of you have been with me all day. I recognize names in the attendee list, so thank you. And thank you to everyone else who is joining us for this, our final panel of Saturday, Love is Queer, which we have been doing now for 4 years. And it is always one of the best attended and most lively events that we have. So I'm really looking forward to enjoying this as a viewer. And your moderators today are going to be Kira and Abe. And that's all you're going to hear from me until the end. And I'm going to let Kira and Abe take it away.
Thank you, Billy. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bookstore Romance Day 2024, the Love is Queer panel. Woo! Yay! We want to give special thanks to the Bookstore Romance Day publisher sponsors, Harlequin, Harlequin Trade, Avon, Epic Reads, Source Books, Bloom Books, St. Martin's Press, and Bramble. Like Billy said, I'm Kira Apple, one of your co-moderators for the panel, and I'm the lead bookseller at Charis Books and More in Decatur, Georgia. We're the U.S. South's oldest independent feminist bookstore. And my co-moderator is Abe Williams. Abe, will you introduce yourself?
Hey there, how's it going, guys? I'm Abe. I work at Green Apple Books in San Francisco. We actually hadn't had a romance section like 4 years ago, and so I was like, we need a romance section because I read the books. And like I was like, we had the young adult ones, but I was like, so I curated that section, and so now it's kind of thriving at the store, and I love it. And that's been kind of like my goal there these last couple of years, is just getting that section going. And so I'm excited to be here today to help Kira out.
Fantastic. That's fabulous. I love that you brought the romance section to your store. All right, we've got a wonderful lineup of authors on our panel today, so let's jump right in with intros. Abe, I think you're actually starting us off with Emma, or I can start.
Yeah. Could you start us there?
Yes,
Thank
absolutely. You. So Emma R. Alban is the author of Don't Want You Like a Best Friend and the forthcoming You're the Problem, It's You, an Achillean Enemies to Lovers Victorian romance. Our next author is Kay Ancrum. Kayla is the author of numerous books of queer young adult fiction. Her latest, Icarus, is a suspenseful, poetic tale of star-crossed lovers. Next is Mazey Eddings. Mazey's late bloomer, her first adult romance, is a cozy, chaotic, sapphic opposites attract story set on a flower farm. Karmen Lee is the author of The 7-10 Split, a second chance sapphic romance about two teachers and ex-best friends who have to work together to lead the high school bowling team to victory. And then we have Eliot Schrefer, who's the author of nonfiction and fiction alike. His Stonewall Honor Award-winning The Darkness Outside Us is a gay YA sci-fi thriller romance with a sequel releasing in October 2024. Rebcca Thorne writes queer fantasy, including the cozy sapphic Can't Spell Treason Without Tea. The sequel, A Pirate's Life for Tea, is an enemies to lovers disaster lesbians romp on the low seas and releases this October. And Julian Winters is best known for YA romance. The next one is Prince of the Palisades, which comes out this Tuesday. In it, a roguish prince falls for a non-royal boy at his new private school. And Julian will publish, I believe, your first adult romance in January 2025 with I Think They Love You. So welcome all. We've got such a great group. Abe, did you want to start us off with the first question?
Yeah. I would like to ask, I guess I can kind of go to let's see here. I guess anyone could start us off. Let me get my notes here. Oh gosh. There we go. So I guess I can start us off with I'll start with Kayla. And so let's see. So some folks claim that there are two types of writers. I've heard like there's plotters and there's pantsers, right? I think for me, I'm like a pantser. I'm not a writer, but if I was to do it, I would be a pantser. But with the main difference seeming to be those who tend to and those who tend to wing it. Which one are you? And do you think you are a bit of both, or does it depend? Or does it depend?
Honestly, I am very much like a plotter. I am an architect instead of a gardener. I have to write a lot of outlines before I write my books, and I don't like having any surprises. So usually, like when my agent is like selling me to different publishers, they're like, "She's like McDonald's. You ask her for something, and then like 5 months later, she gives it to you, and it's exactly what you asked for, better or worse." I actually do 3 outlines for all of my books. I do one that's kind of just general plot, bullet points, whatever. And then I do a second outline that is a journey that I would like my readers to go on emotionally throughout the body of my text. And then I do a third outline, which is a literary criticism of my own work as though I didn't write it, just so that I have like a good handle on what the kids are going to get from my products and what, teachers and librarians and other adults who are in charge of like emotional connections with kids and who give books to children will be taking from my work and will understand of me as like a fellow educator within the educational space.
Nice.
That's great and very comprehensive. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I do see that like I think being an architect is probably a little bit less common. But I do think that both are good and both are right. Whatever lets you get the work done is the best option for you.
Does anyone else on the panel have a feeling whether they're one way or the other?
I actually wrote a book about something that's in the middle. So I'm a plantser, where I do pantsing and then plotting and then pantsing. So I use what I call the 5-sentence method to basically plot out 5 sentences that are like at set points throughout the book, and then I improvise everything in between those sentences. Which works really well for me. And I usually will write a query letter and sometimes a synopsis to understand the themes and the tone of the story before I start. But those 5 sentences are pretty much my guide.
Yeah, similar to Rebcca, I'm kind of both. I think now that I'm kind of transitioning to traditional publishing and not indie publishing as much, I tend to have a pitch and a synopsis, and I'll create an outline. But beyond that, I don't know if other people do it, but I don't write the story from A to Z. Like I tend to write a couple chapters at the beginning. I tend to write a couple chapters at the end. And then, the frustration is filling everything in between, even though I know what it's supposed to be. But my brain just doesn't like to go from A to Z. It's just like, yeah, let's take you on a journey, and then we'll get it done at the end. But yeah, I do tend to have an outline, but it kind of depends on what the story is.
I couldn't be more opposite. I write no plan, all vibes, completely out of order, and it's just like all chaos all the time. Like I tried to write in order, and then I was like, oh no, this is just not working.
Have to go totally A to Z, and I do like a full treatment for every chapter, because if I don't, I will write only the parts like my favorite ideas I've had about the book, and then I won't want to write anything else. So I have to sort of reward myself as I go from A to Z, like, oh, you'll get to write this tentpole moment, you'll get to write the next one, and I have to like push through the more plot heavy or logistical parts to get to the fun, meaty, like emotional stuff.
The kissing scenes.
Yeah. And any kind of like familial confrontation, I'm big on those. But yeah, the kissing.
I'm a lot like Emma. I have to outline because I do have to know where the story starts and where it's going to end. But I also like having those tent poles in there, so I get excited about wanting to fill in all those other spots, because it's like, oh yes, I'm gonna get there. First kiss, that's all right. First, big argument, or first really vulnerable moment. But I have to know how I'm going to get there. Otherwise, it will literally be like one of those old fanfics where it's like these 5 things plus 1. That's all my books would be.
I'd read it.
I'm usually working on a couple books, like I'm drafting one and then also planning the next one at the same time. And so I don't like sit down an outline all at once. I just like, as an idea comes to me, I like have a doc going and I'll like drop one line in and go on with my day. And then a few days later, like drop another idea in there. So I never actually noticed that I've outlined it, but by the end of that 6-month period, I've actually got a substantial outline to draw from. So it's sort of halfway between.
So much variety. I'm amazed at the different approaches you all have to writing. So we've Julian kind of hinted at it. This next question, what got you into writing romance specifically as an author? Was a particular book, film, show, fanfic, or other media? What inspired you to write in this genre? Mazey, you suggested in our panel planning thread that you maybe had to be sneaky with your romance consumption as a young person. Would you like to start us off?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like so many of us kind of have like a it was almost like illicit contraband that we were like smuggling into our lockers, like, and just at a different time, like, yeah. So I don't even know. Mine was kind of weird, and like I think it speaks volumes about probably why I am the way that I am. But like, I saw Moulin Rouge at a way too young of an age, and it was just like quite the bisexual awakening. And I just think I've never been the same since. And then, yeah, I think I got to romance in a weird way too, where I was just very obsessed with like Philippa Gregory's Tudor books, because I loved the dresses, and then I loved like the hints of romance, and like not as big on the beheadings. But like I said, we get there eventually, right? And then it kind of opened up this gateway to historical romance and like Beverly Jenkins and Lisa Kleypas and Tessa Dare, and then that's where I was like, this is it. Like this is where I belong. And yeah, and so that was kind of my weird pipeline to get to there.
That's great. Does anyone else have a similar or vastly different first encounter with romance?
You said fan fiction, and I just kind of like, oh, go ahead, Emma.
No, I'll follow you. You're going where I'm going.
Okay, I won't take
I was about to say the minute anybody mentioned fan fiction, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, like there's like a bunch of people who just kind of like, But I've, been reading fan fiction since I was like 11, 12. I was very, very early era, like part of the zine movement, part of the like email lists, if anyone's old enough to remember that. And my like engagement with romance was something that was always very self-indulgent, always very, about the reader treating the reader and the writers understanding the desires of the reader. So a lot of my romances feel very self-indulgent. And I get a lot of people talking about how romances in my book feel like fan fiction. And I'm like, it's because you're happy. It's because it hit the things that make you itch, So, a lot of romances for me are most satisfying when they remind me of like kind of like the gods of an era of the golden age of fan fiction.
That's absolutely me as well, and sort of writing fan fiction for over a decade and not realizing until I was in like my late 20s, oh, I've been pursuing screenwriting. I could take the plot from screenwriting and all of the character and romance and deliciousness of fan fiction and kind of like meld them together into original fiction. Oh, this is what I should have been doing. And it was just like a really easy transition. And then turning around to read originally published romance and sort of expanding my world and going, oh, so these have been here the whole time. I was just experiencing them only online for so long. And they kind of come together. And I take it as a compliment if my writing reads like fan fiction, because as you said, you're in it, it's heavy, it's there, it's emotional. And I'm proud to have that as my legacy.
I'm a little bit different than most of the panel in that this is baby's first romance for me. Like I've written 15 books before now, and this is the first one with a substantial romance in it. So like Dark Side Outside is this two boys trapped on a spaceship, and I was like, what relationship can these two boys have? And like obviously they're gonna fall in love. And it's the first time I've let myself do it. And I loved it. It was so invigorating and exciting. So I'm learning from you all, like taking notes in this panel. So you have been in the trenches for so long, like feed me wisdom.
I actually found this book called Seven. Oh, you might not be able to see it. Oh, you can't. Oh, wow, that's so sad. Oh, wait, here we go. Okay, it's called Seven Figure Fiction by T. Taylor. And it's like so short and so good, and it literally plays into all of those fan fiction, like universal like tropes, right? Like the billionaire romance, the the queen romance, I mean anything that you can kind of think of, like there's, and it hits on the psychology of like why those scratch that itch. And I just think it's so good. I think it's one of the best craft books that I've ever read. So if anybody's like interested in writing romance and wants to know more about why certain fanfic like is so insanely popular, I feel like that's a really good place to start.
I just have to say, Eliot, this just blows my mind right now that you said this is like your first like playing in the romance area, because your book, it's everywhere. Like people love your book so much. So I love that you've come over to our side to play around and whatnot, but also I think it's just amazing that sometimes when you can step into something and just feel something so pure and so wonderful, what the result can be. I always tell people who want to be writers, you have to love the thing that you write first and foremost, and I can tell how much you loved writing that book. So it's just amazing to me. But yeah, I was from the very olden age of video rental stores. And unfortunately, the LGBTQ section was always this one section where it's like, if I go there, everyone's gonna know. And that was just like so much for me. So I watched a lot of TV and movies and always thought, gosh, the writer got it wrong because these two should be together. I don't know why they didn't put them together. And then I fell into fan fiction, and I did that for so long. Almost like to your point, Emma, except instead of me realizing, oh, I can write my own original story, I actually had a published author who was reading my fanfic message me and say, hey, you should turn this into a published work. And I was like, no, this is just what I do for fun. It's the serotonin. I love being here. And it's like, oh, actually, no, it would be pretty cool if I could get this more than just to the AO3 crowd. So that's how I fell into it deep.
I'm gonna finish out with the fan fiction crew because, the golden days of fanfiction done. That was right there. Similarly, I mean, I've got 3 older sisters, so I was definitely stealing their books before I absolutely should have read them. I'm gonna just go, all right, VC Andrews, I should not have opened that book. But yeah, fan fiction, and for me also anime, like that was where I kind of started, and everything I was reading, like the thread was love. Sailor Moon, like she's the sailor soldier of love, like that was always there. And so it kind of like grew from that. And similar to Julian's point, trying to find some LGBTQ ones, they always knew you were getting them because that was when they wrapped them in plastic. And I'm bringing it back to the old school of grabbing those and having to explain, no, it's in plastic just because it's only about love. That's it. But yeah, and just kind of moving on from there, I actually started as a ghostwriter, and I started doing that when I was home with my son while he was, little bitty baby. And so it just kind of grew from there. And similar to Julian's point, I was just like, well, maybe I can do this for myself, perhaps. And then kind of, figured it out and got it going. But fan fiction crew unite. I'm right there with you guys.
That was awesome. Thank you guys for those answers. That was amazing. I love Sailor Moon. She's the best. I bringing that question into the present day. Okay, so for your most recent book, what are a few influences that help shape it? What other novels or media or pop culture inspires you? Emma, your book titles are Taylor Swift lyrics, which is kind of awesome. Let's start with you.
So the Taylor Swift titles, I have to give full credit to Avon, because my editor and my team came up with You're the Problem, It's You for the second book, and then came to me and said, hey, we'd like to have a matching Taylor Swift inspired title for the first book. Do you have any suggestions? And I sent them a whole list, and I think Don't Want You Like a Best Friend was the last one on that list. And my editor wrote back maybe 4 minutes later and went, oh, that's it. That's what the book is in title form. Let's do that. And I went, great. And then it kind of snowballed from there. And I didn't understand going in just how popular those titles could be. And I also didn't understand how many Taylor Swift references I had subconsciously put into the books. And so readers keep coming to me and going, oh, this. And I'm going, oh, yeah, that. Oh, wow. So I think her music has had such a big impact on me and been in the background while I've been writing, because it's so many of her stories and her songs are about love and about the different ways that relationships happen. And I think that kind of seeped deep into me. And then obviously Don't Wait Like a Best Friend has a Parent Trap theme. And I must have watched that movie once a week for over a year when I was like 11 or 12. And so it had a big impact on me, particularly the dad-daughter relationship and the father-daughter relationship in the television show Castle. I think had a big impact on Gwen and Dashiell in book 1, and then how Dashiell reacts to the boys in book 2. So those are the big ones for me. A writer following a police detective. I mean, it's
literally right. Oh, that show was so good. Okay,
Colch, yeah, please.
Sorry. When you're asking about inspiration for my new book is called A Pirate's Life for Tea. It's a sequel to Can't Spell Treason Without Tea, which is like the cover background that I have. And that book, when I published Treason, I got a couple 1-star reviews that the book had lesbians, just had lesbians, like book had lesbians, 1 star, like nothing about the actual book, nothing about the plot, just had lesbians. And I got very upset, and I took it to the indie community and was like, hi, this feels really bad. And they're like, no, that's homophobic. And I was like, okay, cool. Because like, it's one thing if the book is bad, it's another just for that. So so someone in the comments said that they finished Treason and jumped into Pirates because of the dedication. The dedication for Pirates, A Pirate's Life for Tea, which comes out in October, is that I doubled the lesbians in Pirates just for those 1-star reviews. Like, sorry that the book had lesbians, 1 star, you know. But the actual book was based off of the song The Saskatchewan Pirate. I don't know if anyone's ever heard it, but it's about this like pirate in Canada that starts sailing up and down a river and steals grain. And I just thought that was so funny. So I literally was like, okay, I'm going to double the lesbians and I'm going to base it off of this song. And that was it.
For Icarus, Icarus has intersex representation. I'm an intersex person. And for the majority of my career, which is like close to being 10 years deep, I haven't written any intersex characters. So like intersex orgs would reach out to me and they'd be like, hey, have you written any of that? And I'd have to like shamefully be like, no. And it was like super embarrassing and just horrible. So I decided to write this book that has an intersex character. And I spent a lot of time thinking about like how I would like to portray this experience. And we're very familiar with the concept of like issue books, where it's a book specifically about a situation, and it's, you know, designed to kind of showcase a experience and to like have the reader kind of go like a deep dive in the head of somebody who's very different from them. But when I decided to write Icarus, I was influenced by the book The Danish Girl, which before I get into it, no longer good rep, written by a cis man. But at the time, it was a book, and I read it when I was like 13, but it was a book about a trans woman from the partial perspective of somebody who loved her. So my first exposure to trans women completely as a child was from the perspective of somebody who loved them. And that was really important and like, you know, meaningful to me. So I decided to write a book, not from this perspective of the intersex character, but from the perspective of a boy who is learning about him and falling in love with him. And when they have like their confrontation, that like image of what it is to be intersex and like how like different and difficult to describe that is, I, you know, took a significant amount of my influence about how I was going to portray that from The Danish Girl.
So Prince of Palisades was not the idea I originally sold to my publisher. It's a totally different thing. And I sat down to write a thing I told them about. And I was like, wow, I am not the writer I need to be to actually tell the story right now. So I went to them and said, hey, guys, this is not working out. Any other ideas? And they went to someone in on the sales and marketing side who has been a reader of mine and has enjoyed my works, and said, Julian, you know, you're always online shouting about how much you love Red, White, Royal Blue, and you love Netflix's Young Royals, and you love all these things. Why not write your own royal story? And I was like, wow, I never personally thought about that, because growing up as a queer Black person, I didn't see that kind of representation. So I didn't think there was a space for me there to do that. And it took someone else telling me, "Hey, you should do this." I was like, "Wow, these are things that I truly enjoy. I love a good royal romance. I love a good, someone who's in a position of power, who really finds himself through someone who sees their life through a different lens." And so I sat down and I was like, "Yeah, this is really great. This is what I want to do because it's just something I love." But for my adult debut, I think they love you. It was because I grew up in the era of Julia Roberts, Reese Witherspoon, all these great romantic comedy films. And I was like, I just love these things so much. And again, I don't ever see myself in those movies. But then on the other side, I love movies like Soul Food and whatnot. I was like, what if I took my love for these two things, for two different parts of me, and kind of combined them and made it to, an original story. So yeah, my stuff is always informed by pop culture and media. And I love that. I love that we can take, because that's what storytelling is. It is essentially us telling a different version of what someone else has already told, probably long, long ago. And so I love being able to add pop culture into that because it kind of gives you a point of reference to root yourself in, the same that we do with fan fiction, where it's like, oh gosh, I feel very comfortable in this world already. Now show me all the brand new stuff. So that's where I kind of lean with that.
I'm not sure how pop culture bowling is right now. But at least for me, it was kind of an experience growing up because that was one of my sports of choice in high school and in college. And actually for, a young Black queer girl growing up in the South, that was the only way that my girlfriend and I could date at the time, was to both be on the bowling team. And so that was very much the experience for me, was like, oh, you want to date, you don't want everyone to find out, we'll join the bowling team. And no one will think anything is weird when you guys are hanging out at 11 a.m. on a Sunday. But that was kind of my experience with dating as a kid, and then kind of growing up with that. Everything else in that book is false, of course, but but that was kind of like my little foray into that, and how it kind of came about was a little bit of like past experiences, and just dealing with lots of sibling relationship, and how that can kind of affect things that go on in your life. So
everybody said like really beautiful answers, and mine's kind of like a dumbass answer, but I'm very inspired by memes a lot of the time, and like and I just remember like when the pandemic first started, there was this meme where somebody was in an inflatable like Baskin Robbins ice cream cone, and they like were taking a mirror selfie, and they're like, bro, how the fuck am I an essential worker? And for some reason that just really stuck with me. So yeah, maybe that should have been an inside thought, I don't know. But yeah, that's like where I got the idea for my main character initially. And then I had like intelligent thoughts about the plot afterwards, I think. Sometimes, I don't know. You know what, that's not even true, because like her dream job is to like paint shoes, and I came up with that because there's a shoe company where they hand paint the shoes, and I just can't afford them. And so I was like, well, I could do wish fulfillment and like have her do them, and then like, I don't know, maybe I could like tell them, and then they'll send me a free pair of shoes. And I did tell them, and then they left me on red. So yeah. I know.
I have a bit of a silly origin story for Darkest Outsiders too, so you make me feel better, Mazey. Like back in 1999, I went to see a kind of off the rails, bonkers romantic thriller called What Lies Beneath with Michelle Pfeiffer and Harrison Ford. I don't know if anyone here has seen it. So it just doesn't make any sense. Like I've rewatched it, it still doesn't make any sense. And halfway through, I came up with a theory. The only way I can make it make sense is if there wasn't just one Michelle Pfeiffer, there were 5 of her, and she didn't know it. She was like cloned in the basement. And that wasn't what wound up happening in that movie, but that lived in the back of my mind for years and like fermented. And then later I was like, I want to write that version, what I thought that movie was going to be. And that was the origin story for how I came up with the story for that one. So out of the ashes shall rise something new, I guess.
Amazing. I think that was all of you, actually. Let's move on to our next thought, which I think is a little bit of a segue, I think. So there's a tendency to think of romance as more full of tropes than other genres, whether or not that's accurate. And readers will seek out books that advertise their favorite tropes. As writers, are there tropes you particularly gravitate towards? Karmen, the 7-10 split, has one of my favorite tropes, rivals to lovers. There's quite a few enemies to lovers on this panel, too. Is that a favorite of yours, Karmen? And then as a follow-up, are there any tropes you love that you haven't had the chance to work into a story yet?
I think so. It's one of my favorites. I think, like I said, I grew up with lots of sisters. I have 6 sisters, so my entire life has been a rivalry. And so I just really gravitate towards that. I'm very competitive. Got to be the best no matter what with the sisters. Got to be the sister that everyone loves the most. And so I just find that like dynamic a lot of fun in general. Same with enemies to lovers. I do enjoy a good forced proximity just because I think anyone who grew up playing The Sims, I'm just like, I was absolutely that person who's like, all right, I'm going to lock all the doors. You guys are stuck in this house and like, let's see what happens. Like that just, I don't know, seeing them under a microscope when they have to interact is a lot of fun for me. I think ones that, I don't know, any that I haven't used when it comes to tropes. I'm sure there's a ton I haven't used. I haven't really done Forbidden Love or anything like that, or I haven't really played around with like a boss kind of romance when that's the trope. But I mean, I never say never with tropes. We'll just see kind of what the muse decides is entertaining for, you know, the next couple books. But those are probably my favorite, as well as small town. Particularly, I prefer small towns where everyone is just like, everybody's queer and nobody really bats an eye for that. Mostly because, you know, growing up in the South, I would really love to live in a town like that. So can't find them, so I figure I might as well write them.
I'm a big fan of friends to lovers. I think that's where I gravitate naturally. And so even my enemies to lovers and my rivals to lovers, which is what I'm working on now, have a large pit stop in friends to lovers after the enemy and rival portion before they get to lovers. And I don't know that I can change that. That's just how I am. But I really enjoy that. I would, and I know Rebcca likes this as well, I would like to write a Wump romance.
Thank you. I was just about to talk about Wump.
So I will cede to you to explain what that is, but like, and who did this to you? Incorporating that into Wump also excellent.
Yes, Wump, for anybody who doesn't know, that is like my trope, like my thing. When I was writing fan fiction for years, I was like, what is wrong with me? Because all I ever wanted to do was write somebody grievously injured and their loved one being like, oh my God, I'll take care of you. And apparently there's like this psychological, like I'm fascinated with psychology of tropes. And there's this like psychological thing that basically goes back to like when you were a baby and how your parents took care of you when you were sick. And like what it kind of sticks in your brain. So like if you felt like you were an imposition or if you felt like you didn't get enough care as a child, it's like ingrained in your psyche to love the who did this to you and like the physical injury. I don't even know. Yeah, it's a problem. No, all of my books have it. I'm like obsessed with one.
For me, it's Groundhog Day. I love the like trapped in a metaphysical.
Oh my God. I'm going to be experimenting with that in a new book. I'm so excited.
Yes. I actually have a anthology Groundhog Day, but like I love that like, you know, you were trapped in like this experience that you created via your own like emotional failures and like solving the problem of what you failed to learn is like what sets you free. Love that. And then also Omegaverse, but like gay Omegaverse. You know, because that was kind of like the only like rep that we had at a certain point as an intersex person. And like a majority of my trans friends we're all just into that because it's like, this is experiencing gender in a way that like we have no access to anywhere else. So that was where we kind of like, that was like a playground, that was a sandbox for us. There's something else going on in the straight Omegaverse section that people have feelings about, but I wasn't over there. So I don't know that much about it.
This was a fun question.
Give me fake dating, and I don't care how bad the rest of the concept is. I will go into it like I am a brand new baby, experiencing it for the first time. I cannot get enough of fake dating. I don't know what it is. I don't know what they put in that shit, but I am always down for it. It is my favorite. I finally got to write it with my adult romance. But yeah, I cannot get enough of fake dating for the world. It's the best. One that I haven't explored that I would like to do is kind of like that soulmates or fated mates trope. I think that is such a fascinating trope that I would love to do, especially from the perspective of queerness, because queerness through time and how that is explored, how we are always meant to be together no matter what happens or where we are. That would be a lot of fun. So that's one I hope one day I'll get to.
Shall we move to a new question? Abe, do you want to ask us another question?
Sure. Those are great. Okay, so I
Okay.
have like a question about like maybe the craft. So what type of environment helped you to write? Like home, being at a cafe, libraries, workshops, etc. Anything like that. Like what type of place do you like to just sit down and be able to like focus and write?
Adderall.
That was too real. You can't start with that.
I'm sorry. I only just recently got medicated for ADHD, and it's like game changing. Like I'm honestly shocked that I wrote so many books without it before this point. So, and as far as the environment, I would say probably I love the coffee shop vibe. I have a nice like desk in my house that is like a standing desk, and so I like to stand and sit and stand and sit and stand and sit all day long. But yeah, coffee shops I love.
I'll second coffee shops. I'm sad that it's too hot right now to go to them and sit outside. So now I'm at the sit stand desk and it's not the same.
Freaking same mood.
I like coffee shops because I found that shame is a very useful part of my craft. And if if I'm around other people, they can see my screen and they will care and they will know if I'm not being productive, these strangers next to me. And so it actually like it's totally irrational, but it works. I am so productive in a coffee shop because I'm like worried that they're gonna judge me.
It's like the dark side of body doubling.
I'm a little bit cursed. And so what happens is I get half an hour in, I'm on a roll, and couples come and sit next to me and break up. Like it happens like once every few months. And so like they sit down next to me and then I can hear them like, the reason I wanted to talk to you today is like, I was like, oh my God, it's happening again. Like, so don't come work next to me in the coffee shop unless you want to break up with your partner. But otherwise it's good. It's good for me productivity.
Honestly,
100%.
Eliot, I thought, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mazey, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I thought that shame thing was going a different direction where like I just always go to kissing scenes and then it's just like the no shame and then, you know, like a 50 font, like Comic Sans, like boner, you know, just like in a coffee shop. Like that motivates me. I'm like, how can I make no but yeah, I love working in coffee shops.
I'm a little bit of both. Mazey, I definitely feel you. There are certain scenes that I cannot write in the coffee shop. But I also very much, Eliot, that I have to go to a coffee shop because the shame is so powerful. If I'm at home, I might get, like 700 to 1,000 words in a day if I'm lucky. If I'm at a coffee shop, I don't know what it is, but I feels like when I see everyone else working, I feel so awful that I'm not working, that all of a sudden it's 3,000 words later. I'm like, oh, this was very real. This is very, but also there's nowhere for me to take a nap in the coffee shop, so that helps too.
Someone in the chat just pointed out there's caffeine there too. So thank you, Bethany Hall. That's an really important element to this too.
I always feel like I have to earn that $6.50 coffee as well. Like I came here, I parked, and I bought coffee. I got to make it worth it. And that helps too.
I feel like the coffee shops in my place are like $10 a cup. And I'm just like, for a latte? Really?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm like, all right, you just spent money getting out of the house. You put clothes on, like you put a bra on, you spent money, like make it worth it. Otherwise, you could have just stayed home and, not spent this money.
For
So-
me, it's 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. I need everyone in the region to be quiet. Just me and people who work at bakeries, just alone, together, vibing in the world for me to like be able to write my books.
That was me when I was a fanfic writer.
I was just
My
about to
best
know what
work,
that's
my
Yeah.
best work was from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. I would churn out stories like nothing at that time because,
Yep.
like you said, the world is quiet, and I just feel like it's just me in this world.
That is interesting that it's like this universal thing with fanfiction writers.
I slept in shifts. I got 2 hours a night and then I'd get 4 hours during the day during college and was totally fine. I don't know how that happened. But yeah, to do the fan fiction from 1 to 4. It's great.
So I think we have time for one more question before we get into audience Q&A. So why don't we wrap it up with a discussion of, let's do multiple genres. So for those of you whose books tackle multiple genres at once, do you find that any are easier or more difficult to combine with romance? For instance, Eliot in The Darkness Outside Us, it is sci-fi romance. Do you see your book as science fiction with a central romance, a romance with science fiction elements, or something else?
Yeah, it was interesting as the sort of baby on the panel as far as romance. I was the trope conversation. Like I've let my readers tell me what tropes are in the book, and I definitely have tropes. I just didn't know I was putting them in there. There's like grumpy sunshine. There's enemies to lovers. But the reason there's a romance is the sci-fi plot really called for it. So I added it because of that. I didn't start by thinking of it as a romance. And it was interesting. My editor, I've worked with for a while at HarperCollins, and when he brought my that book proposal to Acquisitions, he reported that Acquisitions was super excited about the gay romance part. They're like, that moves copies. Like this is a really growth part of YA right now, but they were not excited about the sci-fi part. They thought it was like stars on a cover, like it doesn't tend to sell copies. No one's buying sci-fi right now. So it's a mixed bag for this book. And he thought he's giving me kind of bad news that they couldn't offer as much as they could have, but I was only thrilled. Like, because I wish I could go back and tell the 15-year-old me that you will write a book one day with a gay romance at the center, and the publisher is going to be so commercially excited by that, but they're going to be really sad about the sci-fi part. I just wish that blew my mind. I was just only excited about it. But what I wound up doing was there's Books of Wonder, the children's bookstore here in New York City, has a holiday party every year. And I always go and drink too much bad Chardonnay and get drunk within half an hour and embarrass myself. And I was just starting to think about the structuring of this book and how to plot it out. And I was surrounded by a bunch of YA romance writers. And so I asked them, because I didn't want to write a cliche because I haven't read enough romance. So I just told them my story idea so he's attracted to him, but he also he knows he's not his type. And is that a romance cliche? And they're like, no, it's fine. Like you're allowed to do it. So I basically got their sign off on the romance part of the story that there was adequate enough to run with. So then I combined the two.
I'm currently writing cozy fantasy, which is pretty new in like most fields. I mean, it's new by name. It's not really new by, existing in a cozy space. But before it was always higher stakes, higher stakes, higher stakes. And now they're like, no, we want to do more anime, slice of life kind of vibes, which is nice. But I think that all of those have a pretty heavy-handed romance in them. So I do think there are genres that like definitely lend more to like being predisposed, I think, to having those like if I picked up a cozy fantasy, I would feel very unsettled if it didn't have some form of romance in it. I'd be like, oh, how unique, So
I also am doing horror romance, like monster romance specifically. I have a book coming out next year called The Corruption of Hollis Brown, about a kid who gets possessed by a ghost and then falls in love with the ghost, and then they like form one person inside of him. And it's called The Corruption of Hollis Brown, but it's not the ghost that's corrupting him. He like dominates and corrupts the ghost and is like, we're gonna be in love. And it's just like extraordinarily unhinged, but like deeply romantic. And then I also just yesterday sold a Frankenstein adaptation. Finally, I know Julian's heard this story, but yeah, I'm very, very into the very Guillermo del Toro discussion of monster as a exploration of the human reality of being complicated and messy and difficult to love.
Congratulations. I'm so excited.
Thank you. It's been horrible.
Awesome.
Got that one out.
That's awesome. Yeah, similar to Rebecca, I'm behind the scenes working on one that is kind of more of a cozy fantasy, just because that is weirdly what I gravitate towards watching. I'm all about reading high fantasy because I love just kind of getting immersed in these really elaborate worlds. But when it comes to watching it, my brain is just like, nope, we're done after like the first or
Howl's Moving Castle, like
yeah.
Howl's
But
Moving
it's
Castle in book form.
yeah.
Over and over again.
Also trying to have enough of kind of like bringing it to the trope conversation, have enough in there for romance authors to really like sink their teeth in and latch onto it. Because like for me, I could sit there and watch, 340 episodes of Inuyasha and like they are no closer to finishing out this anime and I'm still right in it. But I guarantee, if I try to pull out a 700 word contemporary or cozy fantasy romance, they'd be like, what is this girl on? And so like trying to add enough in there so that I feel like, okay, I'm getting that isekai life, that like slice of life anime feel, and it's very cozy, but it still does have the romance without making it so much of like, oh, this is super dramatic, third act breakup all the time, straddling that line between making sure you feel good, but that you also feel like the romance has moved itself along and they've, kind of overcome something together, so that the romance feels like it paid off in the end. But yeah, I'm same Rebecca. I love me a good slice of life anime. We need to talk after because like
I am so there. So there.
All right, I think that means it is time for some audience Q&A. So we have a question from Sylvia. Did you always want to be an author? And if not, what was the thing that pushed you to start writing? Emma, why don't you take it away?
I think I always thought that I would be an author in some capacity. As a kid, I wanted to be an author. For a while, I wanted to be a lawyer and an author, then a band teacher and an author. And sort of slowly, I found all these other things that felt, I guess, more realistic in a way, because this becoming published and getting to write stories can feel so out of reach for so long. And I've been pursuing writing for television for a really long time. And then quietly and becoming an author. And that one happened first, which is just such a joy and such a great surprise. But I've been writing stories as long as I knew that was how stories happened. So I think it would have happened eventually, and I'm really glad that it happened now.
Similar. I always wanted to write, but I think because of anime and manga, I wanted to like be a writer illustrator when it came to like comic books. But yeah, when I told my parents that, they're like, no, do something that makes money. So I became a teacher instead. Just
I said the same thing.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let me major in anything at all. They were like, no.
No, they're like, that doesn't make you any money. And I was like, great, I'll go into education instead. And they're just like a question mark. And I was like, well, I have a salary, it counts. But yeah, always in some capacity. And then, with jobs, I kind of continued doing some writing on the side, same with fan fiction, but eventually I knew I would get here eventually, but it definitely took kind of like a way around. And if I dip out, sorry, it is super storming here. And so our lights just flickered.
Speaking of teachers, I wanted to be a teacher so bad. I specifically wanted to be an English teacher because my mom was a teacher, but they were having like teacher strikes in Chicago. And it was like so bad that the school year literally got canceled like 25% through, the end of it. So instead I was like, well, I guess I'll get my master's degree, but I need an assistantship because it's 2013 and no one had any money. So I had the draft of The Wicker King, my debut novel. And I was like, let me just throw this out and see what bites. Maybe I can like rock up to a nearby college and be like, hey, can I have some money? I'm like kind of good at this or whatever. And Macmillan bit for my query. And I was like, okay. And then I just never went back to teaching. So I just kind of like fell into it while trying to go to something else. But, at my heart, I'm an educator and I take this career seriously in the way that like an educator would, and all of the work that I put into it is very much focused on like what children of the now need, but also what children of the future may need if the kind of books that I write are no longer accessible, because we're dealing with a lot of like political unrest. So I design a lot of my work specifically to be able to outlast like specific flavors of oppression.
I did not think I was going to be a writer. I grew up in a time where there was this little show you may or may not have heard of called Baywatch. And I decided when I was younger, I was going to be a lifeguard. That was the life for me. I can run up and down a beach. I can look cute in some red shorts. And that was my goal. That was my goal. Until I didn't like the ending of this little known cartoon, Thundercats. I didn't like the way it ended. It did not end the way I wanted for my characters. So that's when I started writing my first fanfic. And then I moved on to Robotech, where my favorite couple didn't have the ending I wanted for that. So I started writing that. So it was in this constant pursuit of fixing what all the writers were doing wrong. And I was like, oh, this writing thing is pretty cool. And again, that's when people found me in the fanfic world. But yeah, I had no intentions. There were not a lot of Black queer authors prominent at that time, for me to be like, oh my gosh, I want to be like them, because those weren't the books that I was reading in school. So yeah, I was like, I didn't think this life was for me. But fortunately, Baywatch got eventually canceled, and I gave up on that dream.
I kind of always placed writers and storytellers on like this pedestal where it didn't seem like something somebody did. Like writing a novel was just so outside of like the realm of possibilities, or like anything like a mere mortal is capable of. And so I was like a rabid consumer of stories. I was only child of a single mom, autistic, like just a lot of things where it was like books were kind of like where I had my friendships for the most part. And so I think I loved them and adored them so much. And I always loved playing with words and creative writing, but I didn't think it was something that I could ever do or pull off. And then I ended up going to dental school. And then while in dental school, I had a quarter life crisis, like an identity crisis. And then I was reading like romance novels, it was the only thing kind of getting me through. And then, these characters popped into my head and they were talking to me. And then I was like, well, it's more socially acceptable for me to write their dialogue than just kind of let it marinate up there. And then, I had a book, and then I was like, well, I'm still hating what I'm doing right now. So might as well see how far we can take this. And now I do both.
I work as a flight attendant and feel that on a spiritual level. So just a lot of, I could serve Coke every day for the rest of my life, or I could pursue the stories in my head. And now I do both.
When I was a little kid, my mom was writing books in the house. She was never published, but I was very much part of her process, because like in most people's houses, the youngest person was the one that could work the printer. So whenever she wasn't able to like print her book, she'd like, Eliot, and I would like run downstairs, and it was like a dot matrix printer with the sides that you peel off and all that. And so I saw her not getting published, and so my mom was great. So I internalized this feeling of like, if my mom can't do it, I guess no one can. It's just impossible. So I really, really just repressed any desire to write. And then I was out with friends after college, and I said out of nowhere, like, obviously, if we all had lots of time and money, we'd all be writing novels. And just this really awkward silence. And my friends were like, nope, like, you couldn't pay me to write a novel. It sounds terrible. And I realized, like, I revealed myself to myself. Like, I spoke my truth accidentally. And so I was like, I'm only going to live one time on this planet. It's one finite time. I should try to do this thing that I obviously think is the best thing in the world. So that's when I wrote my first book. Never published that one, but 3 books in, I finally figured out enough to start writing professionally.
We have a few more audience questions, and I know we're almost at time. So do we want to kind of speed round through them? We'll do like the next one. Abe, if you want to start us off, and then just go a couple people answer and then we'll go to the next one.
All right, so let's see here. Is there another genre you want to write someday? Melanie Keating asks.
I would love to write horror one day. I don't think I'm very good at it. I've tried it already. I'm not very good, but one day I'd really love to do it.
Same horror for me as well.
Just historical fiction, not straight, but not romance.
I'm gonna do poetry. I'm just gonna see if anyone will buy that.
Contemporary fantasy. I don't want to have to world build, but I want magical elements.
Or I love scary movies, so I think it'd be a lot of fun to try to do that at one point.
All right. What is the one thing you can't not have in your books? From Joanna.
Queer people.
Queer people. Yeah.
Found family for said queer people.
I do a variation on a kiss, like smoking the same cigarette or drinking the same, like, from a glass. That's my MO.
Right, I love that. So what mixed romance genre do you like to read and or would you like to write? Kind of like.
I'd like to write a dark romance one day. I think my books tend to lean very rom-com-y, and every now and then I'm like, it'd be fun to kind of mix it up and do something really dark, really, I don't know. I love mess, and so I'm like, let's get some messy queers and dark romance in there.
I'd like to do some speculative romance, some kind of time loop, ghost, time jump element.
I would do an edgy teen slasher. Just indulgent.
But you'd be so good at that. I am with Emma. I want to do something speculative so bad with romance. Yeah.
I'm very fascinated by monster romance.
I pretty much already write all of that stuff. Like anything that I want to mesh together, I'm like, my books have like 8 genres, and that's why they don't sell to traditional publishers, so I self-publish.
I've spent years teaching writing and always talking about raising the stakes. So I'm really curious and scared about writing something cozy because all my instincts are to have higher stakes, not lower stakes. And so I want to go on that exploration, see if I could do it and make it all the way through.
You'd have a lot of fun, I think.
Well, I mean, we're almost at time. So I feel like this is a really good time to wrap it up. Just give everybody a chance to say bye and to thank everybody for coming. Thank you. Such a treat.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all for your wonderful questions. Thank you all for your time, and queer all year. Happy Bookstore Romance Day, y'all.
Yeah.
Hey guys, this is Billy from Bookstore Romance Day again. I want to thank all of the authors. I want to thank Kira and Abe. I want to thank everybody who is in the audience, especially those of you who have been with us since our first panel this morning. That's some dedication, and I love it. I hope you all got a chance today at some point to get out to your local indie bookstore and buy some books. If not, make a pledge to do that tomorrow or within the week. We really need it. Small business is small business, and support us where you can. And thank you all for being part of Bookstore Romance Day 2024. And one last thing, thank you to our friends at Libro FM. Everybody who registered for this panel will be entered into a drawing for an audiobook credit bundle, and we'll also have credit bundles for our moderators and authors. So big shout out to Libro for being so generous with those gifts. Thank you all and good night. And now I am going to go to bed.
Bye. Thank you.
Good night.
Everyone.
Thanks, everybody.